What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 11 of Overrated, Underrated with Resilience Training and me, Coach Mike. This is that talk show where you guys ask me questions on topics based on nutrition, fitness, and sports performance, and I let you know whether I think it's overrated or underrated. Let's get into some of these questions from last week. Tummy tea or slimming tea. Now, I'm surprised it took 11 episodes to get to this one. I feel like it's every other week that we're seeing some kind of ad on social media of some tea that you can drink and it magically just bursts all the fat cells into your body and it makes you slim all of a sudden. Well, I'm sorry to report that that's just not true. Now, are there teas with some health benefits? Yes, there are. There are some teas out there that help with digestion. There are some teas out there that help give you energy. There are even some teas that are proven to help calm you down. All of which are awesome health benefits and reasons why you should drink tea. But to be honest, there is no tea that's going to help you lose body fat. That's just not how the body works. We have to get to a point where our body is using the fat in our cells as energy. And we only get to that point when we're in a caloric deficit. So, slimming teas, overrated. All right, next one. Bulking. Okay, now I don't think most people are thinking about bulking or doing a bulking phase. I won't talk about that specifically, but this does spark a topic that I wish to talk about, and that's periodization or varying the way we exercise. Usually when I meet a new person and we're talking about exercise, I ask them what they do, and they give me a very specific thing that they do, and I ask them how long they've been doing it, and they say for years. They haven't switched it up. Now, when this follower talks about bulking, they're talking about a phase that they dedicate into gaining muscle mass. Not everyone out there has that goal, but everyone out there should be interested in changing the way they approach exercise over periods of time. One reason to change up the way you're training? To prevent injury. Sometimes doing the same movements over a long period of time can lead to some overuse injuries. Another reason for periodization is to get gains. Sometimes the body just gets used to doing the same thing over and over again. There's nothing forcing the body to adapt, so it doesn't. So changing up the way you work out, changing out the tempos of your exercises, variations of your exercises on certain muscle groups can be the missing link in your exercise journey to unlock some of those next level gains that you were looking for. And another kind of obvious reason to change up your workouts every once in a while is for fun. Sometimes it gets boring doing the same things over and over and over again. So changing it up, maybe going to the next hardest variation or adding more weight or lowering the rep count or increasing the rep count can be a fun element that you add into your workout programs that keeps it a little more fresh. So the conversation about bulking might not be for everyone, but the conversation about periodization I feel like can be. And what I'll say about that is that it's completely underrated. All right, let's look at our next response. Sand training / sand running. This is a good one. Now, this response is from one of my college athletes. And he's talking about specifically training your speed and agility in the sand, whether you go out to the beach or you go to a sand pit and you do specific speed and agility drills there. You've probably seen it on social media, NBA players, NFL players going out to a beach or some sort of sanded area and training with their coach, their trainer. I've even used sand training in the past in former facilities of mine, even going out to the beach to train some of my athletes. Even with that said, I will say that sand training for speed is overrated. And here's why. Running in the sand is resisted running, but it's not equal to air resistant running, sled resistant running, or let's say partner resisted running.
The sand creates an unstable surface, so when your foot strikes the ground, you're using a different set or a different pattern of muscle contractions to make sure you keep stability and you're able to run while in the sand. This is completely different than running on a hard surface. What the sand also does is it creates shorter strides. We want to teach the body longer strides when we're teaching speed. Another thing that running in sand does is it increases your ground contact time. What is that? That's how long your foot is in the ground before picking it up before the next stride. When we're teaching speed, we are trying to teach less ground contact time.
So running in the sand creates a whole different surface than running on ground, and running on sand creates a different type of stride than we use running on the ground. If we're trying to get better at running on the ground, we should run on the ground. If we want resistance, use resistance like the ones we mentioned earlier, whether it's a parachute, whether it's a sled, whether it's a partner holding you back with a resistance band. Those forms of resisted running are 10 times better when it comes to developing speed. If we're talking just straight conditioning, then yes, sand is a good way to condition. It's going to make you use more muscles, it's going to make you tired faster, and it's good for being outdoors and working up a sweat. So in the end, even though I've used it, even though it's a good conditioning tool, is speed training in the sand overrated? Yeah, I believe so. Let's get into one more response. Eating past 9 p.m. Surprisingly, this is one I get all the time. I get this question, Coach, I heard you should not eat after 9, because when you do, the food sits in your stomach, your food doesn't digest, and that's how you get fat. I'm sorry, but it doesn't work that way. Now, there's nuance to everything. When you eat, yes, your food goes into your digestive system, and when you sleep, your digestive system is not as active. That is true. But in the end, when we're talking about gaining weight, the formula is still calories in, calories out. Doesn't really matter exactly when you ate those calories. If you only ate 1,200 calories in a day and those came after 9 p.m., they don't count twice as much. It's still just 1,200 calories. This is what I will say about food after 9 p.m. Usually, for most of us, our working time ends somewhere around 5 p.m. Then we eat dinner anywhere between 6:30 to 9 p.m. I would say after 9 p.m., 9 to 11, 9 to 12 is most people's leisure time. And what you're starting to see a lot of the time in these cases are people using food as a novelty, a comfort, or something to pass time in that 9 to 11 time frame. So if you had consumed all the calories that you needed to sustain yourself between the time you woke up until 9, you don't really need to eat from 9 until the time you go to bed. If you're not hitting your weight loss goals, or if you are gaining weight, you might want to look at that snacking as the culprit. There's two sides to it. One, we might be over the calories that we needed to sustain ourselves for the day. Two, we got to look at the snacks themselves. Usually people are snacking on processed food, foods with trans oils in it, foods that are high in sugar or high in fat and low in protein. Not only are these foods not the most ideal nutritionally, because that's the case, they don't make us feel as full as nutrient-dense foods, so we keep eating them. So if you are trying to maintain your calories, or if you're trying to put yourself in a slight calorie deficit to chase some body fat loss goals, I have 2 tips for you. One, the snacks that are just too tempting for you, leave them out of the house. You can't mess up and grab them if they're not there. 2, prep your snacks ahead of time. This will just make it more convenient, and you won't fall into the trap of taking the box or the bag with you and just mindlessly eating until the bag is gone. So, even with all that said, eating after 9 is underrated. You can do it as long as you're accounting for what you're eating, and everything from morning to night is accounted in your daily nutrition plan. Thank you for watching another episode, guys. You know I love to do this. Pretty soon I'm going to be asking you guys for another round of comments. Any questions you have about fitness, nutrition, or sports performance, and I'll do my best to let you know whether I think it's overrated or underrated. Stay resilient.